Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
Welcome to The Big Twist.
I'm Anna Carini.
And I'm Angela Trevino.
And we are talking to other creatives in the entertainment industry about the biggest plot twists in their careers that have set them on their current journey.
Today we have as our guest my good friend Sabrina. Welcome, Sabrina.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sabrina Almeida, or Sabrina Almeida, a screenwriter primarily in one-hour television, but also features.
We're so excited to have you.
Excited to be
Thank you. Yay.
All
right. Did you want to start off with some fun questions for our guests
We like to do a little
today?
icebreaker. So it's just rapid fire questions in the vein of Vogue. The first one being, if you could be any animal, what would you be?
Dog, because mine has a great life.
Nice.
That's great. You do have a great dog. I love your dog. What is your perfect day in LA?
A hike and beach time, followed by a Michelin star restaurant.
Ooh,
Nice.
Which restaurant? Do you have one?
Melisse is really good, but there's so many I haven't been to yet. I really want to try out Vespertine.
I don't know any of
Vespertine
these.
is great.
Any
A lot
of
of
them.
people don't know this unless they live in LA, but this is such a food mecca. It's I love living here for
Well,
that
we're
reason.
constantly rated #1 in the country for food.
I think
Or
our
we can
produce is so
by
good,
eater
right?
or whatever.
Yeah, because California has the best produce in the country. So that makes sense.
It does.
What is your favorite TV show of all time?
I feel too much pressure to say all time, so I'm going to defer to, at the moment, would be The Diplomat.
Ooh,
Ooh.
love that show.
Yeah.
I'm like
it's-
halfway through.
Of all time, there's so many. The Wire is brilliant. Fleabag is brilliant.
Naming my favorites.
There's a lot, so I can't pick just one.
What's a vice you wish you could give up?
Sugar.
That's a good one.
That's a really good one.
They say it's more addictive than cocaine. It is for me. Not that I've
Wow.
tried cocaine, but
Hypothetically
it is
speaking.
definitely very addictive for me.
So we like to start with everyone sort of giving us a little story that shows us, gives us a little insight into your character, maybe a little anecdote that can just let us know a little bit more about who you are.
A lot of my childhood, I was in and out of hospitals because I had a misdiagnosed cavernous hemangioma. So a lot of the time I was in a cast and couldn't write with my right hand. I was born right-handed. And so I just became left-handed. So you find a way. So now I'm left-handed. I had a little brief time of being ambidextrous. Unfortunately, that did not last. But yeah.
You find a way. I love
Find a way.
that. That tells us
That's
who you are. You find
fascinating.
a way. Can you say again what that was and explain exactly what that is? I'm
Sure.
just curious.
So if you know Mikhail Gorbachev from the USSR, was a leader of the USSR many years ago. So he has like a red birthmark on his forehead. You see a lot of people have hemangiomas sometimes on their face.
Okay.
But the flat kind is totally cool. It's not going to hurt you. But I had the cavernous kind, which meant my right arm grew to twice the size of my left arm. It means you have extra capillaries and they filled with blood, and my heart couldn't keep up pumping to all those extra capillaries. So I had a necrosis, a tissue death. Part of my arm fell off in the bath when I was a baby. They rushed me to the hospital. They had to burn all the capillaries shut so I wouldn't bleed out, and I still ended up with like an 80% blood transfusion. But so I look like I have a burn. Burn victims come up to me all the time and ask about my burn, but it was a surgical burn. And then I had many reconstructive surgeries because they had to sew my arm shut like this, and then many surgeries to get movement back.
Wow.
Wow.
It was very traumatic for my parents. I don't remember most of it. Most of the surgeries were when I was really little. But I remember the last few.
That's amazing.
so
I don't
interesting.
remember most of it. Wow.
Were you writing with your right hand at the time? Like, could you tell a difference in the handwriting? So some people talk about how, like, sidebar, but like serial killers or whatever, it's like they'll purposefully teach themselves to write with their other hand because their handwriting will change.
It takes a lot of concentration for me to write with my right hand, and the handwriting's completely different.
Got a second story about you. So you find a way, and we know what's going on if you're writing with your right hand. I love it. I love it. Those are very revealing. Thank you.
So since this is the big twist, I would love to know the big plot twist of you going from scientist to TV writer, Because obviously those are very different. So we'd love to dive right into that.
Juicy.
Growing up as a big math dork, primarily math, but also science, really into physics. I would go into physics as fun events for fun.
I love that.
And that took me to MIT. I wanted to help us become an interplanetary species, as one does in high school. And
Noble.
I went there to study aerospace. So all of the engineering I did was when I was really young. I got to help with some research in satellite anomaly data. And then I got to go to JPL, what should have been a simple internship. But then I figured out that the flight rules that they had for the Cassini spacecraft, they were not compatible. They had me read the manual from top to bottom. And I found some problems, and that led to me getting to come back and eventually design command sequences and test them. So I did that all when I was really young. At the same time, when I was taking like French film classics and Hong Kong cinema classes, and it was actually a bad breakup that made me apply to film school as a pick-me-up. Not that I'd go, because that's not a real career. I was already the
More
rebel.
like a challenge.
Yeah, I was the rebel in my family because I wasn't doing computer science like my father, like my brother.
Wow. So you come from a family of geniuses, basically. I mean, I'm so in awe of everything you're saying, because like I was that kid who wanted to be an astronomer, wanted to, help us get to Mars or whatever, but I was terrible at math. So you actually had the math part. And I'm in awe of the fact that you did this in college, right? So in college you caught a mistake.
Yes,
in the
in
code
the summer
that like
internship.
No one else.
Not in the code, in actual rules, yes, that no one else had caught. And then I presented to a bunch of like VPs. And first I go to, the person overseeing me on the internship, and I was like, hey, I found this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, right? I did something, and he's like, so I asked him what he's going to do with it. He's like, oh, I'm not doing anything. You're going to go talk to the heads of those subsystems.
Wow. That's really cool that he did that.
Yes.
I'm glad that he gave it to you.
Jose Macias, he was an incredible, incredible mentor. And it was when I was talking to those subsystems that I learned a little bit about you have to find a way to talk to people that they can hear you. And, for the most part, everybody is lovely. But there was one particular gentleman, I won't say what subsystem, that would talk to me like really slowly. I don't know if it was my accent. I don't know if it was my youth. I don't know if it was because I was female.
Could be all of the above.
Yeah. And for him, I realized, okay, like he's not going to take seriously me bringing up this issue. So I acted confused. I was like, I'm just a girl. I don't understand. And I was like, I read this sentence here on page whatever, and it's a few hundred pages later, I read this sentence. And, I just don't understand how they can both happen. So that he could find the mistake.
Wow.
And he could feel empowered that he did. So I learned that early.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. Was that something that just was that an instinct that you just had, or did you learn from communicating with him that this is going to be the path of least resistance? This is what I just need to do to get this problem solved? Or did you struggle with no, I want the credit for this, and I need to say this in a way that I figured this out?
I mean, I was an intern. I didn't care about the credit, right?
Amazing.
And my supervisor, he was wonderful. And he understood that I had found.
And that's who you cared about.
Right.
Yeah, got it.
And so it was just the path of least resistance. Like the guy who talks to me really slowly as if I'm unable to understand anything, he's not going to, he's going to need to prove his superiority
in any circumstance. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the arrogance that you often find with geniuses, right? It's like, those of us that have gone to these schools where we have gone to school with geniuses, they often fall into one of two camps, right? It's like there's the arrogant
the curious,
or the very curious,
Yeah.
and and also sometimes they have a hard time communicating, right? Because that's a totally different skill set, right? So there's genius in here, but to actually, to actually explain it to a lay person, that takes a very different level of
Right.
skills. Yeah.
Would you consider that man a genius?
Honestly, I interacted with him a few months over 2 different summers. So no opinion on it either way. He might have been, right? He was definitely the head of a department in over a multi-billion-dollar project. So I'm sure he, So
Just one different perspective of if we don't see him as a genius, this is still how he communicates.
I don't,
that's a fair point.
maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. But either way, I needed to make sure the point was to get the person to see that something had to change. And I chose the path that would lead to that. And, my mentor later had me give a presentation to people high above. I was protected either way. And that's something when you feel safe, like when you have somebody above you who watches out for you, you're not, you're empowered. And you're not worried about something like the credit. You just want to figure out, how can I problem solve this to make it happen, knowing this person is going to resist me?
So you studied aerospace at MIT and pivoted to film school. Where did you go to film school?
I went to USC, the production track. And that's where I figured out that, oh, wait, I keep taking classes from the writing division. I was like, oh, okay, writing is the passion.
Yeah. I love this. How did you decide? You mentioned that you were that person who went to the movies and watched from the very first showing to the end when it stopped showing. How did you discover that, and what was that love like? Where I love that. I'm fascinated by the science and the film, which obviously they can easily go together, but it's not my history. So I'm very curious, how you discovered that you were such a lover of film.
Growing up in Maryland, I would go to DuPont Circle in D.C., which was so far away and edgy, to go see, European foreign films. I had a phase I was obsessed with River Phoenix, and I found the showing of Silent Tongue, a movie that came out after he had died.
I don't know this movie.
Right, because it's super obscure, and you could tell it wasn't, I think they might have been in the middle of shooting it when he died. You could tell it wasn't completely finished movie, but they still released it. I would get obsessed with certain actors. I was not cool enough to get obsessed by filmmakers. I would get obsessed with, not that actors aren't cool.
It's easy to get obsessed with them though. They're the face. They're the front.
Yeah.
They're who you're watching.
The honesty and vulnerability and rawness that certain actors will bring to a performance. And that's before I figured out I wanted to be a writer. These days I'll pause The Diplomat, turn to my husband and be like, oh my God, that line, did you see how it was written? So it worked on 3 levels. But when I was younger, I was more obsessed with the delivery.
Oh, that's amazing.
I'm so curious to hear about how your family of scientists took this news of I'm going to film school, and then did they eventually just accept it? And
no. My mom still is like, you could always go back to school and get a master's.
Oh, wow.
And you're so successful.
And the second I book a job, they're like, well, but when is it going to end?
Wow.
The day I delivered the news, I just got on a show, and I won't deliver it until I've sat in the room and gotten a paycheck, because you never know.
You never know. Yes, I've learned that lesson.
That's very smart.
But they're always like, no. I mean, and it's not their fault. My dad worked at the Pan American Health Organization for decades. My mom taught Portuguese at the Inter-American Development Bank for decades. They're used to steady gigs.
Gigs that don't go away.
Yeah.
My mom is similar. She's an architect, and she's been at the same firm for 20 years.
Right. So for them, it's it's a travesty when their children are going from gig to gig, and they just, nothing has taken. They just haven't landed. I don't think they get that the world has changed, as opposed to no, it's not that your child is incompetent. Anyway, so they still worry about me. which is, it comes from love. It comes from love.
They're always going to worry about their children.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would love to hear how your background has informed your art. I know you're originally from Brazil, right? So, because I'm an immigrant myself, and I infuse so much of that into my work.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm actually in the middle of a feature rewrite right now that's set in Brazil, and I have done development for a project also set in Brazil. Written another pilot for a Brazilian American set in the U.S. So sometimes I write around Brazilian characters. Definitely not always at all, but it's more than that. It's, I think, this theme of being a little bit different than other people, being a little bit the odd person out. I think immigrants go through that when they first come to the United States, but often it stays with them for years. They're not American enough, but they're also not blank enough, whatever culture they came from, right? Mm-hmm. Certainly to the generation above them, to people who come into the U.S. more recently than they did, they're Americanized. So this theme of being sort of a little bit different, a little bit off, not quite fitting in, that does pepper a lot of my work. In many ways, it makes you an underdog. So, yeah, I think it's probably not the primary theme. I've written a lot about loss, not in a depressing way. I lost my brother. I'm sorry. Yeah. I think we have such a rich melting of cultures in the United States, and it would be not grounded and unrealistic if you write scripts that don't show that melting of culture. Then you're just writing what isn't reality.
So that's really well put.
Yes, that is very well put.
I would love for us to go back to your journey, and because you talked about going to grad school, but then talk us through what happened after that.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just like one pivot because you had a bad breakup. Now you're gonna get to hear about my next pivot. So while in grad school, I unexpectedly started a family with my on-again, off-again boyfriend. While we were technically off, we ran into each other at a concert, and it was a very good concert for the both of us.
Which concert was it?
Sounds like
Pink Martini. They're like a jazzy group that sings in a lot of languages. So coming out of school, getting to be an assistant behind a desk wasn't realistic given the cost of childcare. So I would watch the baby during the week, and then in the weekend is when he'd watch her, and I could try to do whatever. And that became forming an LLC and mixing sound on people's shorts, whatever kind of work I could get. Second camera on a reality show. That morphed into making corporate videos for banks. And honestly, I probably would still be doing that because it was very steady. You shoot throughout the week, throughout the year, and then cut something for their end of the year presentation. I probably would have still been doing that, except that my brother got diagnosed with brain cancer, terminal prognosis, and that's what reminded me life's really, really short, and what the hell am I doing with mine? And that's when I started writing all the time. I think I was afraid of failing, of not being a good writer. But with engineering, it's very clear, with writing, it's so subjective. And to give you a sense of the level of my delusions, the first writing contest I ever entered, I only semi-finaled in, and I was like, oh my God, I'm a terrible writer.
And it was the first one you ever submitted to?
And I was like, and I hadn't realized it didn't come as easy as math. Not just that, but some other experiences in grad school shook my confidence a bit. But
Can I just add to that, because I think this is so common and universal. It happens to so many of us that, you get into a good school and you think, oh, the level of my work has to be so high when I'm just starting out. I remember my first film in college, I submitted it to Sundance and I thought, if I don't get into Sundance, it's not a good film.
Yeah, right. That level of delusion, I get it.
It premiered at the Santa Barbara Film Festival, which is a great festival for like my very first short film, right? But it was the same thing. Like my first feature, semi-final at Nickel, not good enough. It's like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. So okay.
Also, I love that you said it didn't come as easy as math. Like, how often do we hear people say that? Like they try something, it didn't come as easy as math.
Yeah, but it's so true. It's like we wish that there was some sort of test that we could take to really measure our writing abilities compared to other people, but there just isn't, right?
Yeah,
and you can get
and
you can get in your head. You can hear feedback in a way that's constructive or in a way that's brutal. Protect your space, protect your sanity. Stay the hell away from people that who are trying to score points and giving you feedback. Anyway, had some of that in grad school, not from the professors, but from fellow students.
How do you feel like that comes across? I'm just curious, like how you can see that when it's happening, someone trying to score points with their feedback, and how to stay away from that. Are there like any indicators or?
Mind you, my friends tell me I'm really blunt. Like because I'll be like, this joke doesn't work. I won't be like, well, perhaps you might consider. I'll be like, not funny. I'll literally write not funny. When
I want to get feedback from you.
I know,
that's
same.
Great.
I'm like, well, that's helpful.
But I'll also propose. I was like, then I'll give some problem solve as well. When it's in a class setting or face-to-face, it's tone. Most communication is not the words that are said, but how they are said. So the exact same words with a tone, delivered in a tone that's meant to put you down versus a tone that's just matter of fact or conversational. Anyway.
That's a great one.
So, I wasted a lot of time just not believing in myself. And once I saw the hell that my brother went through, we tried everything, and he went through hell. 6 years. He was supposed to live 6 months, 6 years. I was like, oh, okay. Like, being bad at writing, like, who cares? Like, oh, wow. So you're right, and then
things into perspective.
Yeah. And then I was, A, life is short, and B, like, so what? Like, if I tried this and I fail, so what? Like, it doesn't matter.
Was he younger or older?
Older, but just by 2 years. He was really young when he, he was still in his 30s when he got,
Wow.
So first pivot, boy. Second pivot, boy. Third pivot, brother.
Wow. That's really remarkable, Sabrina. I had no idea. This is why I love this podcast, because you can be friends with someone, but then not dive into these like deeply personal questions just because they've never come up in conversation, right?
I had no idea that you had gone, some of the things you had gone through as well, that I learned later talking to you. I was like, holy shit, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Yeah.
And thank you for sharing. It's very sweet. We appreciate your vulnerability.
Absolutely.
So after you gained your confidence with writing and started doing that more, what came next? What was next for you in that journey?
Yeah. So there was a lot of time of writing between like 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. I applied to what at the time was called, I applied to a lot of diversity programs. The first one I got into was the NHMC, National Hispanic Media Coalition TV Writers Program, which was great. That's when I learned to dress better. Don't judge today's look.
Fabulous.
You do look great. I love your necklace.
I do too.
I shouldn't even say learn, but I was like, okay, like this is part of the game. Like you can't, in engineering, you can show up however you want to show up, but it is going to affect how people perceive you a lot more in this industry. So I was like, okay, so I have to do this. I can be bitter about it, or I can do this. So briefly, I tried learning how to do makeup. Clearly, it never stayed. But, got a good haircut. I was like, okay, try to dress nice. Got headshots, but learned to take a meeting, learn how to take notes, made friendships that were really important. People say this a lot, and it's true. Network horizontally. Don't obsess about reaching that person with power above you. Really form bonds with people who are going through the journey with you.
Do you have specific examples from your personal journey that you can point to of that being helpful?
For example, there's a writer friend of mine. We met through volunteering for an organization called the Think Tank for Inclusion and Equity. Became friends, and just last year, he knew of a producer who was looking for a creative with a background in science and tech for some development. So he was able to hook me up with that. And I wasn't friends with him because of that. We were friends for years, but we refer each other. People, you boost up your community. So,
absolutely, yeah. I have found that to be the case for me as well. I think a lot of us would say the same.
Oh, so I did NHMC. Met a lot of great people through that. Learned how to network, how to take a meeting. That it's important how I dress. I'm still working on that one, but yes.
I love that that's such an important part of this journey for you. Sorry, I'm going to jump in because as an actor, 100%, but I was always like, do other creatives have to worry about that? So yeah, clearly.
I think some people do it naturally, but to this day, I don't know how to apply makeup. So for some of us, that's a hard skill set.
It took me a long time too. Even a couple of years ago, I want to say a year and a half ago, Anna turned to me one day and she was like, I can see your foundation line. And I was like, oh shoot, I've been wearing foundation that is too dark for me.
That happens to all
I have
of
to
us.
literally blend 2 types of foundation. Not to get too girly for a moment, but
no, that's what makeup artists do. That's anytime I'm in a makeup chair, they blend different colors. That's just
it's
we
so
all
hard
have
to find
figure
your
that
shade.
out.
Yes.
So after NHMC, I applied many years for all the network diversity programs, and I got into what was at the time, and I got into what was called the CBS Writers Mentoring Program. It has changed names since then. And through that program, I got repped, and I landed on SEAL Team, and did that for one season. The showrunner was lovely, but the show had a change in showrunners, which meant most of the writing staff, the new showrunner brought his own writing staff.
That typically happens, right?
Yeah. And then I went to Andor, also wonderful time there. This was back when it was going to be a 4-quadrant show for ages 8 to 108.
What? They literally said 8 to 108.
Yes, they did. And
100-year span.
And it was more comedic, more about sort of the relationship between Andor and K2SO. And clearly they went in a different direction.
It's a Star Wars show, right?
Yeah.
My partner's a huge fan. He loves Andor.
Yeah.
And was that the same, they went in a totally different direction with the same showrunner? Or did they bring in someone else?
Half of that room was the Americans, was writers from the Americans. So
wow, half the Andor room?
Wow.
Yeah, so Stephen Schiff ran the first room. We kept on wanting to go dark, and they kept steering us to light. And then I guess afterwards, when we wrapped, none of the scripts had been read yet. So, our showrunner said, go in peace. I have no idea what's going to happen.
Wow.
And then I guess they went on a different direction. So, anyway. So we were the room when the mandate was different. And then they changed the mandate.
That makes sense.
And then...
and at that point, you are story editor level, or were you staff?
Yeah, let me actually go back a little bit. After SEAL Team, I didn't work for 9 months. A lot of people were one and done. They have the one staffing gig and that's it. And I was concerned that that might be my fate as well. I was tutoring prior to that first staffing gig because that was a job that gave me a high hourly rate, sometimes even in the three digits, and I could write. And but it was also a job where I got like at one point a pencil thrown at my face and called the B word.
Oh my goodness, these kids.
Yeah, kids of very wealthy parents who were used to be catered to. Some more wonderful children, but some had some things to learn about the real world. So I was like, I'm gonna have to go back to tutoring because you don't know if another one's gonna come back, another opportunity is gonna come.
That's why your parents worry.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Full circle.
But I repeated staff writer on Andor. They knew everybody wanted to be on a Star Wars show, and they knew there's no way I was going to walk away from that. But then I was very fortunate. I got to jump and go to ESC. I got Star Trek Section 31, did right by me. They were like, okay, she repeated, and she came off this huge show. This is before we knew every script was going to be rewritten, and it was going to become something else. So they brought me in as ESC, the level I would have been had I not repeated, which was wonderful. And that show eventually became a movie. I was the first room of more than one room. There was a change in execs because there was a buyout. It was a huge property. At this point, I'm thinking, I'm cursed. Every room I touch, like something happens.
And that's very common.
Showrunner's
You're
gone.
not the only one to feel that way.
What
But
movie
what a world to be in.
Yeah. What movie did it become? I'm just curious.
Star Trek Section 31. It's same title, but as a movie instead of a series.
Copy.
And then I landed on For All Mankind. I was really nervous after the first season, because I just never had been brought back. And sure, like there were all circumstances where it was like, oh, basically the whole room's going away or most of the room's going away. So it was lovely. It was so lovely to be like, oh, okay, coming back to a show. And then I got to do that for 3 seasons.
So that's up For All Mankind. You did come back. And you're amazing. That show too. Oof.
Got to do that for 3 seasons and also got to participate in a development room for the spinoff. Which was also, it was lovely, but it was like all EPs and Sabrina.
Wow.
So
what was that dynamic like? If you want to talk about it.
It was good. It was good. It's, you want to have your thought a little bit more fully formed when a lot of extraordinarily experienced people are all trying to shape a show. You just really got to pick and choose when you talk. Only because they're, so many years of experience in that room that had so much to say. So I just got to make sure to choose my moments. With these shorter orders and shows not coming back, only getting a 1 season or 2 season run, it's really disruptive to people's careers because when you have a contract, it already stipulates that you're going to go up in title upon coming back. And when people have to go to the first year of a contract over and over again, there's no stipulation then. That's how people end up repeating. There's so many reasons why the industry is tougher now.
Along those lines, what are you interested in now? What are you, what do you want to do? What are you looking forward to? What, if anything?
Yeah, I love stories that get to stay with a character for, 100 hours or at least 10 hours, whether it's a limited series or an ongoing series. I think the depth of character work is amazing. That being said, I'm dipping my toe into features. I wrote a spec that I'm really proud of. I'm in the middle of writing another one. There's more opportunity there
In
because,
features.
because in TV, sure, they're buying the idea, they're buying the concept, but they're also buying your track record.
Mhm.
And now with the
Mhm.
contraction,
Oof.
Mhm.
there's so few slots to be bought, so few shows getting made. They will tend to go with the person with the 20-year track record and already had 3-4 successful shows on air. Where with a feature, if you write it on spec, the product is the product. And in many ways, they care more about the track record of the director than they care about the track record of the writer once you have that script.
In many ways, this seems like more of a meritocracy, at least to me, because it's like what's on the page. Like you don't
Yes.
have, you're not buying my experience in addition to the pilot. You're
Yeah.
buying the feature, knowing that you're going to have a director shape it,
Yes.
you know, once you bring them on.
It's a really
Yeah.
interesting distinction between the two. That's insightful.
It feels like more of a meritocracy to me too. If you write it on spec, I think for like, for open writing assignments and for rewrites for things like that, they might still be like, okay,
Or
even
selling
though-
an idea.
yeah, or selling an idea, right? They might still be like, well, we just feel more comfortable. We liked your take on it, but we feel more comfortable with this person who's done it a million times. And who knows, maybe some of the things from your take ends up in their draft, but whatever. And I just also like the challenge of, okay, I've got a lot less hours to tell an arc in a character. And how can I do that in fewer hours in a way that still feels emotionally grounded?
That is a real challenge. I miss the TV shows that just went on for 25 episodes every season. You got to end the 7 seasons and you just got to really follow. So like Jane the Virgin, that show got me through the pandemic. I did not watch it when it came out. I watched it during the pandemic, during lockdown in 2020, and just could not believe I was so late to this show. And I was like, these characters, and I get to follow them through so many seasons, and they go through so much. And as an actor, of course, I'm an actor first and foremost. I don't know if I've told you that before this moment, but it's just like, that's the dream, to just dive into something like that and have this ensemble you work with for years, and you all just get to know each other so well. And, it's not always as rosy as I'm making it sound right now, but that's the dream. You want it to be that. And I miss those shows. And it feels like, are we ever going to get that back? Do we feel like that could ever come back?
Maybe. I think that with the success of procedurals these days, like it could be that, I think that there is a return to more procedural formats, right? It's I heard like HBO with the success of The Pit. Now they're looking for the next procedural that's not a medical
and that one's like
procedural.
25 episodes, right? The Pit's like, or
no,
16.
no,
It's
no,
16
The Pit
episodes,
is
but
only,
still way
I think
more
it's
for a
only
streaming.
13 episodes this first season.
I haven't
But still,
seen it yet,
it's like
way more than
proving
a
that you
streamer
can
usually
have
gets.
a procedural, highly successful show on, on a premium cable.
I feel like the 22 plus episode ones, very few and far between, right? Because
right. Those also tend to be comedy versus drama now,
Oh,
with the
yeah.
exception of like the Law and Orders and
I was gonna say it's
and CSI.
maybe Grey's Anatomy.
Or sorry, let me
still
back.
20 some.
Oh my gosh,
NCIS.
yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
And
NCIS.
Grey's, how long has Grey's been on? Like
20 some seasons.
that's amazing.
Yeah. At least I actually think we have more of them in drama, whether it's the Dick Wolf camp or the Chicago.
Oh yeah, Chicago Hope.
Oh, the Dick Wolves,
Chicago
the
Med.
shows, all those.
Yeah. I feel like there's more of those on aggregate, or Fox with the 911 and all its spinoffs. On comedy, it's like a handful. It's like so few comedies. I feel so hard for my comedy friends.
Yeah, you're right. Because it's like, where's the Big Bang Theory
Yeah,
of the moment, right?
What used to be 2-hour comedy blocks became 1-hour comedy blocks, and what used to be many days a week comedy blocks, it's now like 1 day a week comedy blocks.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about your writing process and how you make yourself be productive when you don't have a showrunner breathing down your neck?
Yeah.
When you're not in a writer's room getting paid to do that, how do you keep yourself honest with a page count, etc.?
So I'm a member of a writers group, and sometimes I've been a member of 2 groups at the same time, once even 3 groups at the same time, and that makes me have deadline. I give very thoughtful notes, so I'm not there as just some volunteer to help other people with their work. I want notes when it's my turn. And that means I'm going to have pages when it's my turn. I'm never going to not use my slot because that would be a waste of my time. So those are deadlines that I have to meet. So I only get to go up a few times a year. So I'm going to work towards that deadline. So that's sort of my accountability partners, being in a writers group.
And I love that because not all writers groups do this. Where like, do you know your deadline ahead of time?
Yes.
You know exactly like, okay, I'm going to be presenting or I'm going to be up in a month and a half, and you have that.
We know it ahead of time. We're strict. We're Sunday morning, every other Sunday morning for 4 hours, 8 to noon. Wow. We do not pre-read. If people want to pre-read, they'll ask for it. But that means you got to think fast and give your notes fast. So in those 4 hours, we read and give the notes.
Wow.
So there's no homework, which
okay.
I love.
That's great.
And there's a strict attendance. So if you can't make it, you have to give the person written notes. And if you don't make it, I forget what the current rule is, but we have like whole email chains about this. Like there's a gentle suggestion if people aren't consistent enough that maybe right now it's not a good time for them
to be in it. And how big is the group?
Right now we are at, I think we're at just at 4 right now.
Keeping it tight.
Yeah, we're just at 4. But we're really, really like consistent, like plan our vacations around that kind of thing. Wow. People will be like, well, I'm going out of the country. Like I've been on 3 a.m. Zooms at another country because I respect that it's somebody's slot and I'm going to give them the notes.
I love that discipline because I would say I have been in 2 groups. I'm in one now, and we don't, if the collective doesn't have that level of discipline, it can fall into more of a informal, we hang out, sometimes like who's going to go next. And
I've walked away from groups, or things like, let's read 10 pages is not going to help anybody because we can't give structure notes. Mm-hmm. Like, do people really want to use their slot for scene work notes? I mean, only scene work notes?
And the other thing about it, too, is not having the homework, I think, is really helpful.
Yes.
Because it's on top of, like, whatever other task you have in your life. It's hard to, like, have that homework of, like, oh, now you got to read a whole feature.
Yeah. I'm very hard on myself. And I have found it to be counterproductive. So I'm trying to be nicer, and I find actually the less time I spend in front of the computer, the more I write. Because if I take care of myself, if I do go to that exercise class, and I do eat well, and I do meditate, when I'm in front of the computer, I feel good and things can flow. If I'm sitting there shitting on myself, for like, oh, I didn't finish this. Oh my God. It's hard to create in that space of negativity. So I'm actually prioritizing self-care and find that I get a lot more done if I prioritize self-care. I'm not saying this is good advice for everybody. I'm a workaholic, so for me, it's good advice. But there are other people that's like, no, you got to stop brunching and you need to sit your ass down in front of a computer. That's not my problem. My problem is the tendency to
be too self-critical.
Take care of Sabrina. That means I'm going to have less time in front of that computer, but I'm really going to value that time that I do get to sit in front of that computer.
I don't know if you've ever seen The Gap. This short on Vimeo. Ira Glass narrates it. I recommend it to everyone starting out in this industry. It talks about how when you're first starting out, your level, the quality of your work is here, but you have taste. And so you know that it could get here. And there's a huge gap between where your level of work is and where it could be, right? And you see that gap.
I feel that so hard.
And
I still feel that.
Over time, you start to bridge it. And maybe you never fully bridge it because you're comparing yourself to Kubrick, or you're comparing yourself to, Aaron Sorkin, whoever you're looking up to in this industry, right? And so you start to bridge it, but you never get there, right? So if you get stuck in the self-criticism in the middle, right, you're not going to continue to bridge it.
Right. I've started reading scripts with a few friends that we meet to talk about scripts that like we'll all read a particular script and then we'll meet and we'll talk about it. And it's great because it hones your craft, but you see the gap, right? Because we'll only try to read scripts where like one of us has already read that script, but the other people haven't, and it's like no, like this one's amazing, like, and then we'll be like, oh, like I need to do more of this. Like we'll see just the emotional hand holding, the like little tricks, and then it's good. Like I think it's a good, as long as you don't fall into self-loathing, it's a good problem to have because taste is always subjective. But like there are some people who have just such a facility for writing, but
the craft of screenwriting in particular, that's an entirely different skill, right? I remember for me, one of the most valuable lessons was having to write specs for these competitions, like the Disney Fellowship, right? Where you had, like, I had to write a spec of Succession. I picked Succession.
yeah.
But I read all of those scripts at the WGA library, which you can go to even though you might not be a WGA member, highly recommended, because you have all of these scripts at your disposal. So I read all of these Succession scripts and try to imitate the way that they were written when I wrote my spec. And that really helped me as a writer. Like, but I do think that that active way of reading is something that you have to force yourself to continue to do throughout your career. Yeah. So I love that you do that with a group of people where you can just dissect it and be like, this is why it works so well, right? You know, like what you said earlier of like, this line of dialogue works on 3 different levels, like to be able to verbalize that and be like, okay, why? And how can I bring that into my own writing?
Craft, you can learn craft. You can always get better at craft. Taste is not something you can learn. So we all have different tastes, right? Yeah. So which is great because that means there's something for everybody, right? But that gap, I really want to see that now. I have not seen that. But
I haven't seen that either.
I'll send it to you. Yeah.
But you can shorten the gap, which is great as long as you don't give up.
So Sabrina, is there anything you would like to leave listeners with from this interview? Is there anything you want to impart or something that's important to you about this life as a creative? Or you've already given us a lot, but is there anything you would just love people to take away from this, from your experience?
I'm going to get a little philosophical.
Ooh, please.
I think AI is going to change our world in as big, if not bigger ways than the Industrial Revolution changed our world. It will change it bigger than a pre- and post-internet society. And I don't know if it means in 30 years we're all out of jobs or not. I think there's a lot of uncertainty between what's going on geopolitically in the whole world, with the changes that are coming with AI. I try to think about like, well, it's hard to plan for the future because I don't know what's going to make me employable in the society that's coming. So I like to think about like, well, what do I want my day to feel like? And how do I want to live my life? I may never get another job as a writer. I cannot control that. I may never get to this or that. But I can work on the craft of it, whether I'm being paid or not. And then, of course, we all have to do something to sustain ourselves economically. I just try to think about what do I want my day to look like and not tie the ego to the results of it. Got to make sure that there's food on the table, or my husband has to make sure there's food on the table. Being real there. It's a huge advantage if you have a partner who's non-industry. It's just real. It's reality.
True.
And I have
that is true.
Partner
my partner is non-industry, and that is a real thing.
I don't ignore that I have that advantage. So I don't control how what I write will be received. I don't control when I'll be hired again, but I do control what do I want to spend my day doing, and making sure that my happiness is tied to the doing of it, not to the reception of what I do. Just focus on how do you want to spend your day. Do you want to spend your day in front of the computer, or do you want to be on the beach? And both answers are fine. But you have to find the joy in the doing of it because you don't control the reception part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
I love that so much.
Focus on output, not outcome.
Yeah.
Something to that effect, right?
Right. You can't focus on the outcome. Yeah. If you would do this, whether or not you're getting paid for it, pay us. But if you would, whether or not you're getting paid for it, then you should be doing it. But if you're like, well, no, like, I mean, come on, of course I wouldn't do this if I couldn't make it a career, then
you
maybe
might want
you
to
shouldn't be doing it because that means it's not bringing you the joy. And then like maybe there's something else out there that would bring you the joy, because you got to find the joy in the doing of it, not in the results of it.
The last question I want to ask is, what are you currently intellectually curious about? Is there some topic?
Yeah, I'm really curious about how AI will change society. I think all of us spend less time in the real world and we spend more time on social media. And we spend less time hanging out with our friends in the same room, and we spend more time texting them. And these are less quality interactions. So we spend less time at the bowling league or at church, and we spend more time online. And we're getting a lower quality life because of that. Now, I think with AI, that's going to explode dramatically because we feel like we can get engagement and the answer from this non-human entity. Like we feel we can have a back and forth. We feel, I don't know if any of you have played with ChatGPT or any other of the ones out there. The algorithm is made for you to really want to use it.
Yeah, we actually had this debate the other day because I told Anna this fact, which is Sam Altman is saying that a lot of people are burning processing power unnecessarily and data
correct
to say please and thank you to ChatGPT because like you don't need to be doing that. It might have been someone else that I talked to about.
I was like, wait, I don't know. I think I
remember. Yeah, it was my friend Columbia. Columbia and I were debating.
I don't think we were having this debate
because my friend Columbia uses ChatGPT a lot, and she's always very polite to it. And she was telling me like, well, actually, if you're not polite to it, it's going to respond in the same tone that you give it. So there's a reason why you should be nice to it, because then it'll be nice to you back versus super direct. So I don't know. I could see both arguments, right?
You can actually customize the settings and tell you how you want it to treat you without having to be polite to it. That's something you can do.
That's a good point.
But
Sabrina knows her AI. She has been. You are.
I've barely played with it, but I can see. I said, they programmed the algorithm, but algorithm is not the appropriate word. But they that is going to be way more addictive than social media is addictive. And I think it's going to change the way we interact with each other, and I think it's going to deeply affect our mental health.
Wow.
And it's going to get rid of some professions as well, right? It's I have a friend who said to me the other day, I'm going to go to ChatGPT to create a meal plan for me. And then I'm going to follow that meal plan.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what about hiring a dietitian? Like that's, that's somebody's job, right? Or a therapist. Like some people use ChatGPT for, personal advice the way that they would with a therapist.
Electronic boyfriend, if you will.
That's where I went to. When you were when you were talking about how people think they can get this emotional connection back, they can get this thing back, and my brain immediately went to that of like partners, people trying to find a partner through this. And what is the movie that just came out? It's really Her was one, and then there's one that recently came out, right?
Companion.
That's it. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm so curious.
That's a good movie.
And I've heard it's great. And
it's got some interesting twists.
But that's where my brain went. Yeah, like a partner thing.
So we're in the early days of this. A great thing about interacting with real human beings. It sounds weird to have to even say
that. Yeah,
we're right here, flesh and blood.
It's the friction. We piss each other off. We not on purpose, sometimes on purpose, but we misunderstand each other. We piss each other off. We have to, compromise with each other, and to have something that you don't have to compromise with, that is giving you exactly what you want when you want it. It creates problems in terms of what we expect from interactions and relationships.
Yeah, and
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say just the nuance of like just being in a room with someone, reading their emotions. Haven't we talked about this? Like, I think psychologists and people have already taught, this has been a topic. I'm not bringing up anything new, of like young people growing up. And if they're just in their screens so much, they don't know how to receive certain social cues or react off of social cues. If you've hurt someone's feelings and see it in their face and see it in their body is very different than, you know, not getting that cue, obviously. And even we've talked about it with just the fact that we do our podcast in person. So many people, they're not in person, or so many podcasts there, you know, and we're like, no, we want that energy. We want that chemistry. We want what's happening in the room with someone in person as much as we can get.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I was going to say to that too, I wonder if it's creating more narcissistic people because the AI is literally giving you everything you want when you want it, right? There is no friction, to your point.
Yeah.
So is it creating a yes person? Because I do wonder sometimes about what is it about famous people that then like often it triggers that narcissism, right? And it's because they have all these yes people around them.
Yeah, that can be part of
right?
it.
And
Yeah,
if
the
you have all
power.
these AI yes people around you or entities, I guess they're not. I mean, that will be another question that comes up is like, at what point do you
And did you call them
consider-
AI people?
Yeah,
That's great. I love it. AI
like,
people.
Well, like, you know, it's
But
like,
that's what
at
they'll feel
point
like to
will
you.
they-
That's
yeah,
what
that's
they
what
feel
they feel like. It's like, well,
Yeah.
Bob, you know, gives me dietitian advice, and
This is wild.
Megan is my AI therapist.
This is
And you know
wild.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And Trisha is my AI trainer.
I can't. You can't keep giving them names. I
Sorry.
know they're gonna have names, but you
But
can't
they-
keep them. My brain's
but
gonna explode.
People do give them
Yeah,
names. You know, my
absolutely.
No,
and
I know.
voices.
my friend
And
April,
voices.
who you've met, you know, we had her on the podcast. My friend April gave ChatGPT the name Sage. Because, you know, she was like, well, I asked it what it wants to go by, and it said
Yeah.
Sage.
Oh, I have to have deep
And
breaths.
then I was like, well, let me test it on my end. And so then I tested ChatGPT on my end. And I think it says something more generic, like Bob or Mark. And then I had this conversation with
Bob
her.
and Mark.
And she was like, well, maybe it's because of how you treat it, right? So, like, for me, it wanted to be Sage.
Yeah.
For you, it wanted to be Mark.
It's fascinating.
It's basically what it thinks you want. So that, I mean,
And will it be sentient? Is that the word I'm looking for? Will we get there? Will it?
we'll definitely. I think we're getting to AG.
Artificial general intelligence, yeah.
I think it's happening this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think there might have been one that thinks it's already hit the benchmark. I don't think we're able to predict how it's going to change society, much like we did not understand the great psychological harm social media was going to do to our children, to everybody, especially to children who get exposed to it early. I don't know, you know, if anybody's planning on having kids, no smartphones until they're like 16. They will be happier for it. I know I sound like an ancient old woman, but
Has your daughter
No.
been able to successfully navigate that? Or,
yeah,
like, has she-
fortunately we didn't give her a smartphone until 16, until one day she got a flat tire coming back from soccer practice that ended like I think around 9 p.m. and she was biking home 4 miles. She got a flat and it was like 10 p.m. and she wasn't home and I was freaking out. She didn't have a phone and I was calling all the moms. Was Zoe at practice? Did you see her leave? Did she leave with anybody? Anyway, she had a flat and ended up having to walk the bike home. After that, she had been begging us for a phone forever. We're like, okay, you can get the phone.
Yeah, so it
Yeah,
becomes a
that's-
safety issue at some point, right?
But, you know, you can get them flip phones. We could have just gotten her a flip phone.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
I highly recommend a book called The Anxiety Generation. It's more talking about kids, but it applies to adults as well. But it damages kids a lot more because their brains are developing. But it really talks about how social media, it just completely F's with your brain.
I used to nannied for many years, and one of the families that I worked for, the parents were very much no screens,
Yeah.
and they could each pick a show. There were 3 of them, 3 children, and they could each pick a show at the end of the day to watch before going to bed and everything. And so they would each get like one show. So they watched a
great.
total of like an hour and a half because they were a half hour, whatever they were picking. But yeah, their imaginations and the way they could play
So
and
much
the way they
better,
could
right?
interact with each other was just, I would just sit there and watch them all day and what they would come up with and all the toys
Yeah.
they had and the things, and not even like these like expensive toys that you want to like spoil a child with, just the things that they could create and the worlds they imagined and the things they would bring me into and make me a part of. And I was just like, this is amazing.
So it's not just social media, it is screens. Like I remember how horrified I was the first time I saw a toddler with holding an iPad, and now it's commonplace. Like people just put an iPad in front of their toddlers all the time. We only let our kid, until she was maybe around 10, only watch TV in a language other than English.
Wow.
So
I love that. That's what I did to learn English.
And she has a facility with accents. She knows Portuguese, Spanish, French. At one point, she had up to intermediate in Russian. She picks up languages fast. So it was a lot of going to the library, and it didn't matter the language. We wanted her to pick up the sounds, and at least it's getting something educational.
That's great, Sabrina. It reminds me of that horror thing. I think we might have talked about this. Of some kid. I think the kid was like on a train, some toddler on a train, and it was trying to swipe on the window, thinking that it could do that to reality.
That's amazing. You did not talk to me about that.
But it's messed up. And I think even as an adult, right? Like, especially like during COVID, I was in a virtual writer's room. And so, having to be in a room intensely, thinking, having your brain going at 110% for 6 hours a day. And then after that, then like interacting with other people that way, like we had to during COVID. Like I remember like being in different social groups, and it's like, let's do a virtual happy hour. I didn't want to do that. It's you get to a point where you're like, enough screens. I want to do this in person.
Also, screens are they're ruining our attention span. So perhaps you guys read a novel a week. I used to could read a novel in a few days, and now it's a month maybe for me to get through a novel. And I'm just so used to the instant gratification of just I want something short and instant gratification.
Same. Mm-hmm. That one bothers me. I used to read all the time. I used to read books and novels all the time.
And
very rare now.
Our industry is suffering greatly because every year YouTube, TikTok, and Insta get more of a market share. So like Succession or whatever is competing against those cat videos.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we want the instant laugh or the instant or the instant whatever. And I put a timer on all my social media apps. It's 15 minutes, and then my phone times me out. Mm-hmm. But I had to put that because they're addictive, because I can easily waste an hour, and it truly feels like a waste because I'm not leaving it having had emotional catharsis or learning something about life. Mm-hmm. I can waste an hour instead of watching a program that would give me a story with a beginning, middle, and an end, and an emotional catharsis.
And I would say, to add to that, I think that it's especially affecting comedies, like the comedy space, right? Because I go to social media once in a blue moon to like look at funny memes or videos, right? It's like there's that quick, laugh that you can get from a TikTok video, but that emotional journey that you go through with a character in a drama where like it's making you cry. It's very hard to make me cry with like a 20-second TikTok video, right? But it's kind of easier to get that quick chuckle with a 20-second TikTok video, right?
Sometimes it can get the cry. It'll be like a soldier coming home, and they're like kids running into their arms, or like
that's true.
Somebody's surprising their mom with the puppy they never had as a child.
Well, poor comedies. I'm taking away that we need to help comedy. What are we doing for our poor comedies? No.
I think we're like, we've discussed so much. I think this is a really good place to like leave us off.
Let's do a little was there anything else?
I just wanted to thank you for having me and the thoughtful questions, and I don't know, this felt very like philosophical, make me think kind of interview, which I appreciated. I was shitting on the platforms you probably use for this.
No.
I think it's a great discussion.
Like YouTube,
I love that you brought this up.
Spotify,
But I love that you brought that up, because I think it's something people don't want to talk about or people don't want to face. We love our denial, right? We love our denial. We don't want to, and we got to go there.
On 2 different things with panelists, like execs, And the execs now are saying, like the execs are saying, like we're not like a Netflix exec isn't saying we're competing with Disney. They're saying we're competing with YouTube, Insta, and TikTok. Like all the execs are now realizing like we're losing the war not to other channels. We're losing
digital.
Yeah.
Yep.
To these spaces, to these, you know, which we've become more and more aware of because we're working in the digital space.
Well, this has been such a joy. Thanks so much for joining us, Sabrina. I feel like I've learned really interesting new facts about you that I didn't know, and I'm so appreciative.
And I'm so grateful I got to know you. This was fascinating.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a really fun talk, very philosophical.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that.
And for
Making
those
us
of you at
think.
home, thanks so much for joining us as well. Please hit like, subscribe on whatever platform you're watching this.
We love having you with us. Thank you.
And we'll see you on the next one.
See you next time.
Bye.